Contemporary era. The definition of the contemporary era is contemporary era in English language historiography is a subset of current history that depicts the chronicled period from around 1945 to the present. Contemporary history is either a subset of the late existing days time frame, or it is one of the three extensive subsets of the contemporary history, shared by means of the early contemporary time frame and the late current day time frame. The time period current history has been being used in any tournament, considering the fact that the mid-19th century contemporary history alludes to the backdrop of event as a rule in the lifetime of the antiquarian, albeit once in a while, in the European or North American setting, to post-1945 or even post-1940 history. Truth be told, it is said up here that modern-day history is now not any greater challenge to these prerequisites than the historic backdrop of greater some distance of periods. Similar history can be with ease recognized with special endeavors and aggregate memory, and can at the identical time draw on the structures and mythological or media introductions rehearsed in different fields also. In terms of contemporary fashion, contemporary brands' fashion market is unmistakably overflowing with a multiple level of rivalry. The ultra-modern current planners are compelled to continuously contend with greater seasoned, set-up extravagance brands by focusing on the extra youthful age of consumers. In terms of contemporary society, it has been described in three fundamental variants. For the first one, the expanding human interconnections via and cooperation of connections that is dynamically protecting the complete planet. The second one, which is the movement and profundity of the development of human lifestyles detected by means of mechanical advancement, speak to an outright oddity in mankind's sets of experiences. The third, last but not least, the size of anthropological and natural exchange due to the fact of the connections between developmental elements, which are social, financial, and mechanical, as no variable point of reference. In terms of contemporary era's lifestyle, these introductions are the after effect of various critical adjustments that are irreversibly altering our day by means of day lives, our viewpoint and seeing the world, and by our method of dwelling, respectively. Among these central changes are enhancement in lifestyle conditions, future, education, and gender equity, modifications in homegrown and global political establishment, and the breakdown of ordinary equilibria.
I'm going to talk about the significance or the characteristics of contemporary era. There are three main characteristics of the contemporary era. First is major events, and second is I'm going to talk about the genre, and third is I'm going to talk about the rhetoric. Okay, let's go on. Alright, first I would like to talk about the major events happened during the contemporary era. So there were several events that happened during that era. It is categorized by an era, but also it is such a unique style as well. Some of the scholars, all the literary output called contemporary era after Second World War, which is 1940s. This duration extends to the present, which is still now. Globalization and the increasing concept about global warming and the war against countries categorize the period from 1990s to 2000. Moreover, it is a decade marked by conflicts, natural catastrophes, and increasing of population. After the Great Depression and the 2018 recession, the greatest economic downturn has now risen, and many people have lost their jobs. Fragmentation, unbelievable narrators, especially, which is basically an imitation of styles and authors, shifting narrative and non-linear presentation, play and complicity in the language are defined by the contemporary era. And moreover, there were even some authors of other centuries appears in this contemporary era under certain conception. Secondly, I would like to talk about the genre. So this literary style provides a wide range of genres such as traditional fiction and other styles of adaptation to the modern truth. In addition to the novels and poetry or graphic novels or blocks kind of literary stories, plays, poems, and films represent the approximate genre as well. All are the fictional and invented, but in a real and or abstract way. It is viewed a mirror that represents life of a human experience. And the first of the defining contemporary literature now it is that will have universal truth and feelings that can be encountered by any human beings. For the third characteristic, I would like to talk about the rhetoric of basically it's about the primary rhetoric devices used during contemporary era. So there are four. First one is juxtaposition, second is satire, and third one is colloquialism, and fourth one is vernacular. So let's see what is this rhetoric devices first. So rhetoric devices are very primary but developed during this contemporary era. This rhetoric devices technique is used by an author or speaker to communicate meaning to the listener or the reader with the intention of pursuing them from viewpoint to the considered a subject using language designed to facilitate or provoke an emotion display of a given perspective or an action. So let's go to the list of four devices. So first is juxtaposition. So during the juxtaposition, it is implied to highlight the author's differences, to show unexpected correlations, or to explore a specific link between the two perceptions. It is encouraged to people to rethink and find elements that usually held apart by having them in connection with each other. I would like to talk about the satire. Okay, satire, effective satire effectively uses sarcasm, humor, ambiguity, irony to target the characters rather than real people. It exaggerates social shortcomings and criticizes important public figures, acts, or politics. Satire current activities and politics with political cartoons. As an example, it is like a political cartoon like we see in television or in other social medias. Okay. I would like to talk about the colloquium. So in this era, the use of informal letters, sentences, or even slang in a piece of writing is a colloquialism. So as a author, being a part of the culture, colloquial expression appeals to the creep in being influenced by the way people speak in the society. And the fourth one, I would like to talk about the vernacular. So the term of vernacular refers to the public writing or speaking during the era. So during the era, many articles has many vernacular touches, but it is written mostly in informal language.
Hey guys, it's good to have this session after so long. I swear to God, this pandemic is really making me miss my readers' friends. How are you guys? Doing all good?
Seriously, I'm so thankful that I'm still alive. And on the bright part was I managed to explore some new genres.
Yes, since there was nothing to do, I spent most of the time reading novels. Romance, my favorite.
Well, not just your favorite, mine too. I am your hopeless romantic. I got to read this one young adult romance too. The one that I read was 13 Reasons Why. Have any one of you heard about it?
Yeah, I have heard about it, but not sure what the story is really about.
The title sounds interesting. Tell me more about it. I only heard something about the female lead was a diseased character.
Oh, is this book somehow about flashback?
Yep, this book is somehow about flashback by listening to the tapes Hannah Baker, the female character, created before she committed suicide, and sent it to one of the male characters after 2 weeks. In this story, she's a young high school student, but she descends into despair brought by on betrayal and bullying. Culminating with her suicide, she details 13 reasons why she was driven to end her life in an audio diary. She mostly got betrayed by her crushes and friends.
Okay, this is now in my wish list.
Great, I will lend a book to you. Did you read anything during the lockdown?
Well, I read a book called I Did a Bad Thing by Linda Green. Well, it was a good book, but certain things were not really acceptable.
Oh, why? What's so obnoxious about it? Any reasons or situations about it?
Yeah, I want to know too.
Well, some facts the female lead portrayed was really not convincing as a reader. Like, there's a part where they portray having an affair with a man who's engaged, it's fine, and getting pregnant before marriage is like, okay. Well, comparing that with our culture, those are really not acceptable.
Oh, okay. But there must be a story behind it, right?
Uh-huh. Well, in my book, it was about this young lady who's very concerned about her career and stays with her boyfriend. But things change when her ex-boyfriend returns and her feelings get trapped. The more the ex-boyfriend gets closer to her, the more she gets confused on who she really wants to be with.
It seems interesting. Currently, I'm reading a romance novel called 5 Feet Apart too, but this one is about two young teenagers with cystic fibrosis who try to have a relationship despite always being forced to stay 6 feet apart. The story was inspired by Claire Wineland, who suffered from cystic fibrosis.
Why is it 5 feet in the title and 6 feet in the story?
Yes, why?
Hold on, let me explain. Because CF patients are supposed to stay at least 6 feet apart from one another to prevent the spreading of germs that could lead to infection or death, especially for Stella, since she's waiting for a new lung transplant. Will and Stella begin to fall for each other and they decide to take one foot back. So whenever they meet each other, they will use a 5 feet pool cue to measure their distance. Can you love someone who you are forbidden to touch?
I see. That's interesting to read. Sounds like the real Romeo and Juliet there.
Since all our books are about female characters, why not we compare their characteristics? This will be fun for this evening. Say what?
Agreed to. Let's talk about the characteristic of the female lead role.
Ooh, let me start.
Okay.
Well, in the book that I read, Hannah is a friend in need. She even offers help to those who actually screw over her. Smart and understanding. However, people always turn back to her, even her lover and crushes too. It went to the extreme and led her to her suicide. Hannah always kept all her problems and feelings to herself. Although she felt dying, she still believed that being good to someone is good and she be there to someone who actually need it. Her life is full of despair and that led to her caught into depression.
That's that.
I know, right?
Yeah, it is. This actually really happened in a society. We don't know, but when we go further, Hannah is also a person who can't control her anger and even kind of manipulative too. Well, can't blame her because she really wanna let those who made her suffer to be in her shoes. That is why she create the tapes and send it to them. It doesn't do her any good. That's kind of she letting anger get into her head.
It really does happen. It is sad when she actually wants to be loved, but gets the opposite instead. The female lead characteristics is different with yours then. Mine, the main character was Sarah Robert. She was portrayed as a hardworking and career-concerned woman who was always very strict in her office, while when she gets home, she's a loving and caring partner who's always there for her partner, Jonathan, a social worker. Here it shows that no matter how professional a woman is in her career, but her character changes when she goes home. This portrays how working women are expected to be by the society and how they are really being at home in reality.
But then mine is quite different. The character Stella is very intelligent and often carries the weight of the world on her shoulder. Since the death of her sister, Stella often stresses because she knows she is going to die as well, and this will greatly hurt her parents. Plus, she is a very friendly type person with controlling personality and always does her treatments in fear of dying and making her parents lose their only child.
So what do you think was the plus and minus of a female character?
In my viewpoint, I would say that Stella Grant's character in this novel is very interesting to be analyzed. She makes plans to do list every day to measure time day by day, so a time will not be such a wasted time. As she plans a time so well, it indicates that she exactly knows what become her purpose. Stella also determined to keep doing her medical treatment to keep her survive. In terms of cons, I would say that Stella was simply confused with the idea of dying in the beginning of the story. she sets aside some time to contemplate the afterlife. And then she also had a conversation about it with Will. The second thing is she weak at controlling feelings and attitude where she is continuously blaming herself for Abby's death, her sister, and still keeping thinking that it should be her who died, not her sister. So how about yours, character Hannah Baker?
Hmm. In my book, Hannah's biggest strength is that throughout all of this, she stayed real to herself. She kept it real and didn't fool herself with the lies or let herself believe the rumors that people were spreading around. She acted like it doesn't happen. But the weakness is that she wouldn't seek help from any of the counselors, maybe even her parents, we don't know, which is not stated out. She was in her mind or maybe too much staying in her own world that is become the destruction of her from the inside out, quite literally, and that led to her death.
Wow, all of yours characters are super different from each other.
Lalita, because they are different.
Sometimes there would be similarities in stories, Well, in mine, I think that the advantage of the female character was, in this book, the female character was portrayed well as an ambitious young woman who was living a successful life, where readers can actually relate it with today's life. People nowadays really dream of having a successful life. But the disadvantage was, I would say, the way how they ended the story, just like that. I mean, I really hate suspense, so I'm expecting for part two. And the fact I said earlier, they portrayed having a fair outside relationship is like fine.
Yes, nowadays people do have affairs behind their partners. It's a norm to them. What do you feel about your character and what do you think that the author can do to make the character even stronger?
I personally felt that the author has brought the female character well throughout this story, but it would be better if the female character was able to stand up for herself more in some situations, which can motivate readers like us to learn from. Moreover, I felt that the author has focused too much on one of the minor characters, which I personally felt was not needed. And you know what? I skipped that chapter. But it was indeed a good book, and I would love to read more books from this author because I like the way how the author develops the story. So I would give 7 out of 10 for this book. How about you? How did you feel about 5 Feet Apart?
Never doubt the power of the lead role, Stella in the 5 feet apart where she has CF, a deadly lung disease. Even with this, pulling her down, Stella keeps a happy face and comes with a personal channel sending awareness of the CF disease into the world. Her straight up rule for the world, Stella does everything in her power to stay safe. But a major problem is she's weak at controlling her feelings and attitude, where she becomes frustrated when Will asks her about her sister. And also, she ran away from the hospital and see her friend dead, whose foe has the same disease as her. She feels bad for Stella because there's so much of pressure on her. Not even because of her realness, but because of the pressure she puts on herself to be alive for people in her life that love her and need her. Maybe the author can make the character to be stronger to face difficulties in her life or even lessen her burdens that she faced in the story. Other than that, the flow of the story is heartwarming, but the ending is sad. I appreciate the way author provided the awareness of CF and the hardship the couple faced in the story. They did an amazing job portraying a serious subject while also keeping the story alive. So I will rate the story 9 out of 10. We both should read the story and it will make you cry for sure.
Yana, what about yours? What do you think?
Fiona,
What? Okay. I felt that Hannah's story should end up with revenging in a good way than committing suicide. I think she can fight her feelings, especially those boys hunted her and took her for granted. Dying is such a weak option. If you can die, why don't you come up stronger and stay alive to revenge to them if you're still not over it? I think I would give her a 7 over 10. The story of her is great, but I do really want to see her revenging them one by one if she's still alive. That might be much more fun to watch, you know? Karma's on the menu.
Hmm, this indeed was a good session after all. Hey Fiona, can you lend me your book? I wanna read it.
Sure, I will charge you 5 ringgit for an hour.
Funny, I'll read it like a rocket. Well, let's catch up again next week. I'll bring some books that I brought from Big Bad Wolf 12 Jowl sale. I'm sure you guys wanna have a look at those as well.
Yeah, sure. I'm looking forward for the next session. Bye. Take care, girls.
Bye!
Number 1. 84% of romance book buyers are females. Number 2. 75 million number of Americans who read at least one romance book novel last year, which is 2019. Number 3. Top journals of e-books romance falls first place. Number 4. 1,406,868 copies sold last year of the best-selling romance novel 2050 Grey, authored by E.L. James, retelling of her first book 50 Shades of Grey. Fact number 5 about 13 Reasons Why novel. Hannah Baker was originally going to survive in the book. Fact number 6 Depressed girl who wants to be loved. Fact number 7 5 feet apart, it has a height-wrenching plot. Fact number 8 love story recalls tragic tale of couple. Fact number 9 about I Did a Bad Thing was nominated as a Romantic Novel of the Year award in 2007. Fact number 10 this book was privileged as the best-selling author's book. So to sum up the entire video, now we can say that basically contemporary is a pupil's today's life, where the reader can easily relate themselves into it, they can feel the situation and act according to it. Before we end this video, let's look onto what you have watched before. First of all, we have looked onto the definition of contemporary era, where we have also mentioned about the definition, history, lifestyle, culture, society, and so on. Secondly, we looked into the significance of era, where we have mentioned about the major events, the type of journals, and then the rhetoric part as well. Lastly, we analyzed 3 major novels where we highlighted about the female major lead role, and we have compared about it, and also we have spoke about the strength and the weaknesses. We believe that y'all, after watching this video, you could understood about the contemporary and the literature as well. Thanks for watching.